worth saying again that Democrats oppose violence and lawlessness in all its forms. I do want to point out that the vast majority of protesters have been peaceful. But the most egregious and sweeping displays of the use of force and lawlessness we see in the United States today, and the gravest threat to the rights and freedoms of those that we hold dear, are the acts of the Trump administration itself. President Trump and his administration have crossed the line over and over again, from January 6th, when this building was attacked at his direction, to invoking the Alien Enemies Act, to dismantling USAID, to ignoring court orders, to the attacks and threats against law firms that were protecting democracy. As in that in the 5 months since Trump took office and put the for sale sign over the White House, he's earned $2.9 billion on his crypto scam. I mean, to call this unprecedented, that word has lost all its meaning. He keeps making history, but the wrong kind. Just the act of sending the National Guard and troops and active duty Marines to L.A. was already an overreach. Supposedly, now we hear reports that those soldiers and Marines were sent to quell protests, but now are detaining civilians and are being trained to perform immigration enforcement functions. Ms. Perryman, what else could go wrong with the National Guard and Marines deployed in L.A.? What are the risks to the Americans who live, work, and exercise their right to freedom and to free speech there?
Well, I would just say that what our Constitution recognizes and how good government functions is really based on trust. And when we look at National Guards, it is the governors that often call the National Guards in. And so, of course, the fact that we are seeing a situation where the president has taken this step without cooperating with the governor and with local communities there is deeply concerning. And, of course, we know from history that could lead to escalations and could lead to violence that is really problematic for all of our communities across the country, including in Los Angeles.
Thank you. Ms. Perryman, Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth has talked about the deployment order, and he testified that this order, and I'm quoting him, this order is getting ahead of a problem so that if in other places, if there are other riots in places where law enforcement officers are threatened, we would have the capability to surge the National Guard there if necessary. Ms. Perryman, how does the President's broad order and the presumption before the fact that military force would be deployed, how does that pose a threat to other cities across the country?
Well, again, it appears to be an escalation, and the main thing that's really important to so many Americans across the country, as well as local law enforcement in so many areas, that local law enforcement is there to help people be able to peacefully protest. And so there are ways that people in this country can express their views. We don't all agree with each other, and right now you really see the White House, for whatever reason, I think escalating, maybe seeking to create some made-for-TV moments. It's not clear, but I do think that there is a lot at stake here, as you've heard this morning.
Thank you. I want to ask each of the governors, this is a general question, how could each of the governors answer briefly how President Trump's policies, his assaults on the rule of law and his interjection of military force into California, how that would threaten your states, especially where Secretary Hegseth has said that he would support that expansion?